It feels like every time Hollywood announces a new movie, it's what we've already seen. Or basically seen. Whether it's Disney, Universal, Warner Bros., and DreamWorks. Remakes, sequels, spin-offs. They're the ones who own the movie landscape right now. And we're here to talk about it. Welcome to Cinematic Conversations with me, myself, and I, the show where I discuss movies, the film industry, and whatever strikes my fancy. I'm Lauren, and today I'm going to be discussing existing IP versus original IP and how that has been shaping Hollywood's landscape. Today's episode is brought to you by me, so if you would like to support me, please subscribe, like this video, comment. You can also consider supporting monetarily if you want through my Buy Me a Coffee, which will be linked down below. Thank you so much for any and all support. We must start at the beginning. Greenlighting the movie. When a studio of literally any size decides it wants to move forward on a film project, that is called greenlighting the film. Because, it's giving the go-ahead, the green light, or you can think of it also as dropping down those green dollar bills. Let's make a movie. But what exactly is a producer looking for as the perfect recipe for success? An approved script, which may seem kind of obvious, but you don't know. An approved budget. And the script and the budget need to be approved by the creatives and kind of the financial producers. It needs to be a mutually approved upon thing. You also need the production schedule to be approved, whether it's live action or animated, whatever. It needs to have a schedule that everyone is aligned with. Most likely it'll have a director attached, lead actors attached, and if they're not fully contractually attached, they may have something called a letter of intent, which is to show that they plan on getting attached officially to the project. And the big one we've all been waiting for. We need to all know where the money's coming from, hence the green dollar bills. You also need to have the legal right to make the movie you want to make. Now, you might think, oh, that's just maybe locations or, stunt legal, whatever. No, you actually need the right to the story itself. Now, what does that mean? If the characters, the world, the plot, everything is from your own brain and it's never been done before, completely unique, one of a kind, then awesome. It's maybe a lot easier to get that legally, get the rights to do it because you're saying it's cool. But maybe that belongs to somebody else. And then you need to option that material, which is when you are purchasing the right to make a movie or project out of an existing story or concept, pitch, etc. Regardless of whether the ideas are yours / the original studio getting involved or somebody else's, those concepts are called IP. What is IP? Intellectual property is the creation from the mind, which could be artistic, literary, musical, whatever, or it could be more technical, patents, innovations, but I'm going to say inventions. And yeah, that's basically what it is. It's just like someone came up with the idea and if it wasn't you have to pay that person who did come up with the idea to do something with it. I totally think that's fair. I believe that people should get the money that they're owed from their own works and ideas. For example, in Harry Potter, the characters, the world building that the initial ideas came from, those all belong to J.K. Rowling. But the film rights and what was created out of the Harry Potter world for the film purposes belong to Warner Bros. So even within the same kind of overarching franchise, different things could be copyrighted and owned and belong to different entities, which is a little bit confusing. But the only thing we care about for this conversation is just a basic understanding of IP. Why is that? IP is essential for this conversation of sequels and remakes, etc., because studios are more prone to taking an existing idea that they've seen to be a moneymaker than take a chance on a new idea. Which is sad. I understand that there's risk involved with any project, and there's risk even with a sequel, but there could be more risk with taking a leap of faith on an idea that hasn't been kind of proven to be return on investment. Now, there is the idea, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I think sometimes that's what the studios are going for, right? Shrek made money, Shrek 2 made money, Shrek 3 made money, Shrek 4 made money, Shrek 5 will also make money. And I get it, but I also personally feel like they're just trying to like churn out as much as they can and like basically wring an idea to death, which I don't approve of. Sorry. As someone who lives in the real world, I totally understand that everyone wants to make money while something's popular and relevant because this world is expensive and we need money to live on. As I said, these projects need approved scripts and budgets and schedules, and this all stuff takes time. And if you want to put in all that time, you want a higher return on investment. You want to be like, well, we're putting all this time and everything. I want to make sure it makes money. We know Mulan made money. We're going to make Mulan too. And I get it. I do. But I think a lot of people, including myself at times, are like really over this current era. But why did this era begin? Well, I think Hollywood was never obviously been about losing money. Like, what industry is trying to lose money? I think the Hollywood industry's perspective on movie making changed when kind of Wall Street got more involved, because Wall Street is about like kind of exponential growth, like increasing growth and growth and growth and growth and growth, versus maybe the old style was like, we make a movie, we make some money, make a movie, make some money, make a movie, make some money, da 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 da, and kind of maintaining the status quo, versus like, we need more growth. I think we can really see this shift into leaning into really trying to make a lot of capital with the heavy investments into the streaming companies in the 2010s, because like if you look into the financial statements of a lot of the streamers, like they're really not making money, or if they are making any profit, like they only just started making a profit. Those have not been profitable for a really long time. And yet so many investors have been pouring into it because it seems like it was the new thing. It was a new way to make money. And obviously the current system had kind of like capped out. Personally, I don't think the streamers worked out in the way that a lot of these companies intended, considering that a lot of them have merged recently, and the ones that haven't merged are offering ads. You know, you're like the lowest tiers are now including ads, and if you want to avoid that, to pay more and more money, like Amazon Prime introducing ads basically. First it was just with Freebie, which was annoying, but like whatever. But now it's across the board ads unless you pay more money to avoid them. So like obviously they need more income than they're getting from their current system. So you tell me if that's successful. However, streaming did successfully decrease the amount of people who would physically see a movie in theaters. Because why see a movie in the theater when you can watch it at home? When you don't have to go out, you don't have to worry about dealing with crowds or getting a seat on time. You can just chill, do whatever, be in your own space. And I love seeing movies at home for many reasons, but I also really love seeing movies in the theater. And I think certain movies were like meant to be watched, you know, on the big screen and with a crowd and with the feeling, the atmosphere of no one's seen this before and it's exciting. You can't pause it necessarily. Like there's a reason to see movies in theaters. Sorry about that. I really love theaters. But basically, studios realized they needed to really incentivize people to get their butts back in seats, because the box office, like they make a lot of money in the box office from like actual people in the theaters watching the movie. They're not making anywhere near as much money per kind of like movie from someone streaming it versus someone sitting like in a theater to watch. And how do you do that? How do you get people to come back into the theater? Well, you do it with something they already love. Cueing remakes. Before we begin, I have to do a special shout out to musical movie adaptations based off a musical, based off a movie. Mean Girls, I'm looking at you. To be clear, remakes did not start in the 2010s. They didn't even start in the 2000s. They've been happening for a very, very, very long time in the movie business. But I think it is safe to say that they have become more prevalent and discussions around them have become more prominent in society more recently, because they're coming out at a much faster rate and at a sooner rate in comparison to when the original came out. For instance, A Star is Born originally came out in 1937, and it's actually been remade 3 times, with the most recent time being the 2018 film starring Lady Gaga. But in between all of those remakes, there were at least 15 years, if not over 20 years, in between each of those versions. And I think that kind of distance really helps to kind of separate the original from the remake. I also think that story kind of lends itself well to being a remake, in that the concept of a star in society has changed from the 30s to now. Versus Moana, which like already has a remake coming out, and it came out in 2016, and its remake is scheduled to be in 2026, which I remember thinking, oh, a decade. That doesn't sound horrible, but we have to think about it. They've been talking about this remake for years. It's not like it's been a decade and they've been like, aha, no. Moana made a ton of money and Disney was like, we're pouncing on this. What's also crazier is they're making a sequel to Moana like at the same time, and that's coming out this year. That might be coming out like this week. This might have come out by the time I made this video and it's public. So they're not only making the remake, they're making a sequel. They're so desperate to hit the Moana front on both ends. And while on the topic of Moana, and we're thinking about animated to live action remakes, because that's what this is, a live action remake, I want to say that animation is a worthy art medium and a worthy medium of film, point blank, period. It is not a lesser art form than live action. It is my personal belief that animation should be held in higher esteem. Disney, however, does not seem to agree with me because they have made many a live action remake out of their animated classics. We have Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, Aladdin, Jungle Book. I'm sure there's more of Lilo and Stitch is coming out. There's a lot. I should say I like Disney. Okay, I love Disney. I'm actually going to Disney in a couple weeks. Like, I love Disney, okay? But this just has to be said. They've also done some spin-off remakes, which I'm not calling full spin-offs because they're still live action compared to animated. And the time period is sort of like relatively the same. For example, Maleficent sort of takes place at the same time as Sleeping Beauty. They then made like a Maleficent 2, Mistress of Evil, but that's beside the point in this part of the video. We're talking just about the remake. Personally, I admire the spin-off remake more because it's at least a slightly more original story that we're telling instead of the same exact story. I'm intrigued by Mufasa in the same way, even though I know that it's already leaving some other kind of canon Mufasa events and character stuff based off the TV show and other things for more drama. I will also say I've enjoyed some of these remakes, especially Beauty and the Beast, because Bella's my princess. I really liked it. Okay, I think I cried like half of the movie because I was so happy. So two things to be true at once, right? Like I can love the movie and the remake and everything, but I can also want to see new ideas, especially from these studios that have so much money because they can actually afford to make a ton of movies with new ideas. It also just bothers me that for some reason that original animated story is no longer seen as enough now that they can make a live action version of it, because there was a reason they made it animated. To begin with, it was magical and they can convey things in animation that you can't in live action. Like I know there's the live action Snow White. Oh, it's another one that's coming out. I think it'll come out eventually. I know there's been some delays. And Snow White was a huge deal as an animated picture. It was the first of its kind. And this live action Snow White is just not going to be that same way. And it's upsetting that we feel the need to make that. And by we, I do not mean me, myself, and I mean Disney. Quick little caveat to say that I do appreciate that in the remakes, especially with the more Renaissance Disney movies with a princess and a prince. I do appreciate, Little Mermaid, they made one of those too. I do appreciate that the princes are getting a little bit more depth to them versus just kind of like a man who appears, maybe sings one song with the princess and like leaves. So I do appreciate that they're doing like a little bit of addition, but I do feel like it's not enough to justify all the remakes of the animated movies. To ease up on Disney momentarily, let's just talk about remakes or reboots, whatever you want to call it, on a larger scale. Remakes are a really easy way to take existing IP that has been proven to make money, whether it's IP that you own. Sorry, Disney, we're coming back to you, like with The Lion King, making The Lion King, or A Star is Born, kind of taking that original story that did well, and maybe painting a new thing on it, tying it up with a new bow, and giving it back to the audience. The audience might take it really happily because it could be really good. Being a remake does not automatically mean bad. It's just not original. In case you didn't know, for example, Dune Part 1 and 2 with good old Timothée Chalamet, those are actually reboots because the original Dune came out in the 80s. And Dune Part 1 and 2, killing it at the box office. And killing it in my heart. I liked those movies, okay? I enjoyed them, and I'm not every audience, right? But like, people obviously like the movies, and that's totally cool. Proving again that remakes can be huge successes, and again, telling the studios then that they should keep making them. So I It's complicated because every time a remake's good, I feel like it tells the studios, yes, make more remakes. And sometimes it's good just as a kind of a movie, not necessarily because maybe because the original idea was just really good. We have to remember, all these movies originally were new ideas. And if they've never been tried, then we wouldn't be making a reboot of it because the original one wouldn't have been there to make a reboot of. So for every great idea that we want to duplicate, that idea had to begin originally. I think what really hammers that home as well as the duplication is not just reboots, but also sequels and spin-offs. Say we don't want to have to remake the movie. We like the movie as is, but we still want to make more money out of the characters. Here's what we do. Sequel. Or prequel, or trilogy, or quartet, or whatever. And to be fair, we as the audience do want that. For the first time, at least 50 years, all 10 of the top 10 highest grossing movies of the year are sequels. This is not including Wicked. Wicked could change that, and I probably will because it's been crazy. But as of recording, that's the case. And that shows that look, we do want these movies. We do want more of these characters and stories that we love. And I can't fault that for other people, and I can't fault it with myself. I mean, I love Downton Abbey, and they've made 2 movies so far, and they're making a 3rd movie, and I'm sad. I am sad for that movie, okay? Like, I am just as, valuable as you guys when it comes to beloved characters and stories that we want more of. Like, I'm here for it, okay? I'm so here for it. But that doesn't mean I can't also critique it. And part of that critique is also just the crazy blow up of the idea of a sequel, because it used to be a sequel, 2, or maybe a 3rd movie. And if they couldn't come with a 3rd movie, maybe something quirky, like either a little TV show spinoff or like The Lion King 1.5, right? Like they made The Lion King and they made The Lion King 2, and they were like, oh, we can't really do a 3rd, right? But we could do a 1.5. And I honestly think that's one of the best Disney movies of all time, low-key, like, to be honest. Not the case anymore. Now there's 4 movies, 5 movies, and this is not just with animated movies. I mean, obviously Downton Abbey was a TV show, now there should be at least 3 movies, but this is across all genres. And like some of it's kind of junk, but we're eating up the junk. Like I think sometimes people forget that certain movies kind of are sequels or count as sequels because it's like, well, no, it's a beloved franchise. It's like, that's the same sort of thing. For instance, there are 10 Fast and Furious movies. I don't know who's still watching them. Also, what about those Mission Impossibles? In fact, actually, I for the first time saw Mission Impossible. I saw like the last one's part 1. I actually thought it was really good. And I approve of a long-term franchise that I can basically know nothing about and still enjoy as a standalone movie, because I feel like a lot of sequels and like long franchises and stuff, like you really can't do that. Like you really have to know everything's going on to appreciate it. So shout out to Tom Cruise, unfortunately, for doing that and making that successful. The crux of what I have issues with when it comes to sequels is, yes, we can love characters, but if the story feels complete, it can feel a little jarring and unnecessary. And I enjoyed Kung Fu Panda 4, I did. But it wasn't really necessary for any of the characters. I felt like all their stories had kind of been tied up. Versus, I will say to Downton Abbey that Lady Mary's storyline to me does not feel tied up, okay? So just for her alone, we can continue this series until she's happy and I'm happy with her being happy. I'm also like shook to my core that there's another Toy Story movie coming out and another Shrek movie coming out, because I was so convinced that those characters, like, they were done. Not that they were killed necessarily, but that they were like sorted out. Like we knew what was going to happen with them. And we were at peace with that decision, and maybe there'd be some more spin-offs or whatever, like with Puss in Boots for Shrek, but we weren't gonna like just keep opening up the can of worms again and again and again. I should not have been surprised, okay? I should have known the studios would want to milk those movies for all they're worth. This is not the same as the Harry Potter franchise. I would like that to be noted. And not because I like J.K. Rowling and I'm giving her a pass, but because there were 7 books. So it made sense that there would be like a movie per book, and then the last one they did make into 2 movies, just for more money, really. But I can kind of get behind that because it was always intended to be released that way. Like the story was in those kind of pre-allotted chunks. versus a story that was kind of signed, sealed, and delivered, and then we're like undelivering it, or like, oh, we need to deliver more, but it was never kind of asked for. If it's intended to be a series or intended to be multiples, I think there's a lot more leeway there, and also then we're actually viewing it in a different medium of maybe a movie, but it's still being received the same way that it was kind of written. I hope that makes sense. Something I also find really, really funny with sequels, or like whatever number we're up to, is how the cast changes. Because, I mean, sometimes these things are just going on for years. I mean, there were like 20 years in between Gladiator and Gladiator 2, and most of the cast is different because they have either passed away because like years passed and maybe they're older, or they're just busy with other projects, they're busy with life, like they're not available for whatever reason. It's like, yeah, because no one thought they were making more of these movies. And yeah, you just keep banging them out. I mean, for example, the Kung Fu Panda 4, none of the Fantastic Five were in that movie. Which upset me, because I love the Fantastic Five, okay? Tigress is like the main reason I watch Kung Fu Panda. And where'd she go? Where's she gone? I also think it's funny, especially since I was animated, that they didn't try to find a voice actor who could be like similar for the Fantastic Five. They just were like, oh, they're off on missions. Which, like, yeah, they had to explain why they weren't there, which is, like, even funnier in a way, because they know the audience will be all confused, but they still want to make that movie to make the money and maybe tell more of a story, but maybe not. I mean, I also feel like Kung Fu Panda, they have to keep, like, exploring more of Poe's trauma, but I just don't know how much more trauma there is to explore for that panda. When it comes to the movies, series, whatevers that lose some of their actors, the main thing is like the main actors stay the same, and Kung Fu Panda still had Jack Black as Poe, which is really all I guess they found necessary to make the movie and to make it feel like it is a real Kung Fu Panda movie. But I don't know, I just think it's funny. To be fair to Kung Fu Panda 4, it did really succeed at the box office. It had a budget of I think $85 million approximately, and it made almost $550 million at the box office. And that's the frustrating part, because we as audience members are saying we want new ideas, and yet we're watching old ideas, right? We're going to the theaters to see these movies, which is what the theaters are telling us to do, right? They're like, oh, well, we need people to come watch it. This is how we'll do it. And we're falling into the trap, me included. Just crazy. Also, I have no other way to mention it here in the script that I wrote, but Twisters, shout out to you for being a fabulous sequel. So many people didn't even know you were a sequel, but you are, and that's why it's Twisters. Multiple Twisters instead of Twister. I also just love the movie, so kudos to you. As I've alluded to earlier in the video, along with the remakes and the sequels, we also have the spin-off. And I love me a good spin-off. I think a great spin-off is Bartok the Magnificent, his spin-off from Anastasia. You know Anastasia, and how there's Rasputin and his little bat named Bartok. There's a whole spin-off movie about Bartok alone, and it is amazing. I love it so much. Go watch it, please. It will make you so happy. If done well, a spin-off is so good. Like the Puss in Boots spin-off, fantastic. It is really funny to me that Puss in Boots is a character who didn't even appear in Shrek. He first appeared in Shrek 2, and he was just beloved, obviously, that not only did he have a spin-off movie, his spin-off movie had a sequel, The Last Wish, and it was phenomenal. So I just feel like there's nowhere Puss in Boots can't go, to be honest. And again, it's that war of the worlds where I want new ideas. I love Puss in Boots. I want new ideas. I love Puss in Boots. Honestly, I think a spin-off could be better than a sequel because, like, as I was saying, characters kind of have their stories tied up. Like, we know who they are. We know what happened to them. We know where they're going now. It's kind of, we understand, like, how many more bad things can happen to a certain character before it's just tiresome, versus a spin-off can take the existing world that we know and we're interested in and we care about, and a character that maybe we know of, or maybe that's kind of from a before time, but still ties into the world, and let us dive back into that universe, but with a new character who we don't have all the ends kind of tied up yet. A fantastic example of this, and I know it's also a book series, but we're still going to use it, would be The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, because Suzanne Collins wrote The Hunger Games, 3 books, 3 movies, well, 4 movies, but whatever. And that's Katniss's story. We don't need to go into it anymore, but we could explore an earlier story, and then there's going to be the Haymitch story as well, which I think is called The Morning of the Reaping, Sunrise of the Reaping, something like that. But I just feel like Suzanne Collins really understood that Katniss's story was done, okay? But the world of the Hunger Games maybe isn't done. So, food for thought. I also really liked Wonka, again, Timothée Chalamet, but I thought that was really fun. I know I think strayed away from some OG Roald Dahl canon for Willy Wonka, but I thought it was fun, and like, I don't care about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory at this point. Like we know it. We've seen, there's been remakes of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, okay? Like, we've seen that story multiple times. Let's go into how it began, okay? I care about Wonka, and that's what Wonka did with music. So I was sad for it, and it delivered. That being said, don't hate me, don't hate me, don't hate me. Sometimes a series, a franchise, a universe, it just needs to be done. Not that it needs to be wiped from the earth, okay? But it needs to be laid to rest. I think two good examples of these kind of franchise universes would be Marvel and Star Wars, or at least they need to be like put on some pause, okay? Because Disney acquired both. And it's just been boom, 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 pelting out content. And first of all, I can't even like watch, honestly, a Star Wars or Marvel anymore, really, because I haven't watched all of them. And if you haven't watched all of them, you have like no clue what's going on, which is annoying, and I don't approve of that. And I think it's also stupid if you want to have stuff released theatrically, because then people are less inclined to go see something because they know they're not going to understand what's going on. But also, it's just so overwhelming, the amount of content. And it's not just necessarily that they are making remakes, because they're not really remaking stuff, but they are making endless sequels, endless spin-offs, TV shows, this, that, and it's just a lot. And I know there are people who love all of it, and I'm happy for you if that is you. But for me, I think it's kind of really soured those kind of IPs, because I used to admire Marvel's ability for the different kind of movie characters to have different feelings with those movies. Like, the Thor movies felt different than the Captain America movies and the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but now they all just feel like Marvel movies, and I don't actually think that's a good thing. And Star Wars, I mean, people used to make fun of the first three movies, 1, 2, and 3, which would be obviously the ones with, like, starring Anakin. And now there's more movies, and now people make fun of those movies, and then there's just a ton of other stuff, and it's just too much, it's too much. And it's sad, because I think if they had maybe done it more strategically and slower, things could have been maybe more well received. Like Rogue One, I think was received really well. I thought that was really good. And it was like a standalone movie versus another TV show that has multiple seasons and you have to watch everything, or another trilogy of movies just because they're like, oh, the other ones were trilogies. And I love Lord of the Rings, but I do think they kind of fell into that same trap with The Hobbit, where they made The Hobbit 3 movies. And although I did appreciate that they took some stuff from the appendices to make The Hobbit into 3 movies, it did not need to be 3 movies. And I feel like they only made it 3 movies because The Lord of the Rings was 3 movies. And I just wish everyone would take a deep breath and remember that quality is greater than quantity, okay? Focus on quality, not quantity. As we're nearing the end of this episode, I would like to be clear as well that there is new IP. There are new ideas out there. And in 2024 alone, there have been some incredible original movies, okay? And these movies come from bigger studios and smaller studios, and they all deserve their flowers, all right? Let's drum roll for a few of them, please. Love Lies Bleeding, Challengers, I saw the TV Glow, The Substance, Anora, and more. Like, there were a ton of original movies this year. And you may have heard of them, you may have not. Challengers, I think everybody heard of, but some of them are a lot harder to know about because a lot of the times they do have smaller budgets. Even if they're from a bigger studio, the money is going to kind of big tentpole films, which would probably be in those franchises we talked about, versus these smaller, even if not indie films, basically indie films, they don't have the marketing budget. And even if they have somewhat of a marketing budget, they may not be showing in as many theaters, as many times across the country. So it can just be harder to find these movies and watch them. But it doesn't mean they don't exist. And I am so happy that I live in LA in the sense that I can see a ton of movies because it is a movie capital of the world, if not the movie capital of the world. So there's lots to see. and always a theater that's showing whatever I want to see, basically, as long as it's come out semi-recently. And even sometimes if it hasn't, there'll be a theater showing an old screening of something. If you are saying, okay, Lauren, I would love to watch more smaller movies and try to support original and new ideas, but I don't even know what there is. Like, I don't know what to look for. I don't know what to do. I mean, you can still start at your movie theater and see what else is showing beyond maybe like the big posters they're showing, because maybe they are showing something that's just a little smaller and it's just like towards the bottom of the list. There's also maybe film festivals you can check out that might be in your region area that maybe have something kind of obviously new and exciting that no one's really seen. Now, this one wouldn't be for in theaters, but I also really love Canopy. I have it through my library card. You could probably get it through your library card. It is a streaming platform, but it has so many, I feel like, eclectic movies and international films, and also ones that are, domestic. But I just feel like it's a great way to get exposed to movies that are a little more random, and also still ones that are, you could have seen in theaters, but it's through Canopy, and because it's with your library card, it's free. I get, I think, 27 credits a month to watch some stuff, and certain movies, maybe more or less credits. So, it's not like you watch 27 movies necessarily, but I've never, ever run out of monthly credits. As is probably clear from the video, but I want to be extra clear. I watch big budget movies. I watch big name movies. I watch sequels and spin-offs and remakes. Okay. I am not above that. And there's something wrong with that. I think that's awesome. As I said, and I'll say it again, I'm so ready for that third Downton Abbey movie, okay? I am so ready for it. You don't even understand, okay? I've talked a lot, and mostly about the movies that I care about the most, whether for good or ill. But what does this mean for the industry at large? The truth is, Hollywood's still going to keep making sequels. They're going to keep making spin-offs. They're going to keep doing reboots of movies, and they're probably going to do more and more remakes of movies that I don't think need them yet, if ever, honestly. Like, Lord of the Rings, beautiful. I don't see why you would ever need to remake those movies, okay? They hit the nail on the head the first time around. Perfect. But Hollywood's not going to stop because studio executives see dollar signs, and obviously we, the people, are watching movies. We are enjoying them, and that's not going to stop. I do think, though, that there is a bigger push for new ideas alongside existing ideas. I think for a bit, nobody really cared in the superhero era and everything, but I think that's sort of dying down, and now people are feeling some type of way, and with the political climate and the state of the world, I think more people maybe are feeling angsty, stressed, concerned, and I do think, unfortunately, that can make really good art. That's not the only way to make good art, but I do think a lot of ways that people can kind of rebel, push against the status quo, and try to change the narrative is through art, whether that's a book or a film or a painting, etc. See my political video for more info on that. So I think that's still going to be there, and it's up to us, really, the audience, the consumer, to support those movies and be like, yes, we are here for these movies. We do want these ideas. Do not stop making them. Because if we stop supporting those movies at all, they really will die out on the mainstream, and then you really will only be able to find them through extreme effort. And most of the country and most of the world doesn't have the resource to do the extreme effort to find these movies. So we need to keep making them show up in theaters. We need to keep talking about them. We need to keep shoving them in other people's faces. For instance, The Substance, I was all over my social media feed, and that's amazing that this new idea that talks about aging and women with aging especially really dives into that idea, and it's topical and it means something to people. And not that a pre-existing idea in series doesn't mean anything to people, but I do think that the new idea can be it's born of what's happening now versus an older idea was born whenever it originally started. So it doesn't necessarily have a fresh take that a new idea can have. Again, all takes could still be welcome, but it's that balance that I think we really need to find. And so, yeah, we need to be supporting those movies and those filmmakers. And with that, we are officially done with the 4th episode of Cinematic Conversations with me, myself, and I. Thank you so much for watching or listening. I know this one was a bit longer, I think, unless I really chopped a lot in the edit. So please be sure to like this video if you made it all the way through, because you've obviously liked enough to watch. Please comment down below your feedback, your thoughts, anything that you improve. Literally, I'll take any comment. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode and every other type of video that I drop. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.